You are now tuned in to iArt Asheville Radio. Thanks for listening, y'all. Hello, friends. Thank you so much for checking out this fun new project I'm calling iArt Asheville. Maybe you've had the time to listen once or twice before, but maybe it's your first time. Either way, here's a quick little rundown of what you can expect from the show. So I absolutely love art in all its various iterations, and I think that creative forms of expression is one of the most important things that we have access to in our human experience. Everything that we have now is a culmination of all the great creatives and the makers of the past. And thinking in ways that are transformative comes from the fundamental inclination for wonder and curiosity about all things in life. For over a decade now, I've been practicing visual arts, painting, and illustration, and I've really found pleasure in the journey of trying to develop a style that is uniquely my own and where I fit in this world of contemporary art. And through the years of my interacting with so many creatives, I've noticed an inclination for curiosity and wonder in topics that most people would consider unpopular or fringe or esoteric. Now, these are the kinds of things that really light my brain up, be it spirituality, astrology, metaphysics, quantum physics, crystals, conspiracies, fairies, UFOs. You know, all that crazy hippy-dippy new age stuff. Yeah, the weirder the better. That's the kind of thing that I like to get into in a deep conversation. And it's almost as if creatives can find themselves on a similar wavelength of thought or ideas. It's almost a prerequisite, it seems, for creative endeavors, akin to a problem solver, if you will, in the way that their method of thinking is structured. This is why I think an artist is one of the most interesting people you can talk to. So, after many years of travels and leaving a trail of paint behind me everywhere I went, I wound up in sweet little old Asheville, North Carolina, nestled in the Appalachian Mountains, immersed in so much natural beauty and saturated with so many creatives who call this place home. What is it about this place that draws so many of us here? A question I'm not sure many of us know the exact answer to, but we will definitely endeavor to explore this and many other things as we get to peek into the weird and wonderful world of the many creatives who call this place home. I hope y'all enjoy it. On this episode of iArt Asheville, we spoke with longtime art friend and local painter Dillon Endico. Dillon and I go back a little ways, and it was real fun reminiscing about our past and the story of how we met. And it started at the beautiful Suwannee Music Park down in North Florida, where we were both doing live painting. And what I didn't know at the time was that our first meeting was actually Dillon's first experience as a live painter, and that this event had proved to be a pivotal moment in his own art journey, which was really cool to find out. We spoke about our early childhood influences in art, which brought up a really neat conversation about street art and graffiti and how influential it can be for children who may not necessarily have access to the arts, but who have a natural interest in the arts. And this led us into a real fun conversation imagining the future of what art may look like with all the influences that the younger generation has, including all the street art influences and the growing available access to digital technologies such as Procreate and Photoshop, amongst others. Dillon's work is very dynamic and weaves amazing natural imagery with a really thoughtful palette, so we got to peek into his process a bit, and we also chatted about his amazing side project, Medicine Heart Murals, which is a powerhouse trio of muralists here in Asheville who have created some stunning imagery at festivals across the country. We discussed how they use the local flora and fauna of whatever area they're in and weave that into the imagery, and they include the indigenous cultures that trace their heritage to the respective areas as well. A really, really cool process. We also chatted about Dillon's upbringing in the Keys and his journey up to Asheville by way of Taos. And, of course, we had to chat about Taos and the really interesting Earthship community and some fun stories of his experiences there. We chatted about acknowledging your dark side and working through it with art. And, of course, the Medicine Heart Mural Trio Collective and their new art project here in Asheville called Art Garden. All in all, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and it was so great to chat with Dillon, and I'm so happy to have his presence here in this amazing creative art community. I hope y'all enjoy it. This episode of the show is brought to you by Rad Printworks. You can find them on social media at Rad Printworks. They are located at the Foundation Studios in the heart of the River Arts District in beautiful downtown Asheville. And what would a podcast be without some amazing intro music? I want to take a quick moment to give a shout out to Connor Golden, a local Asheville musician who was so kind enough to let us use his music on the show. You can find him on SoundCloud and Instagram under his name, Connor Golden. Thanks so much for letting us use the music, Connor. And now, let's start the show. I feel like I just need like a dedicated space, you know what I mean, and probably like a room, you know what I mean, like before I enter my home or something like that, you know, just like bathe in mineral spirit or something. I don't know, but anyways, dude, let's do a podcast. We're doing it. Here we are. Dillon Endico is here. He is an amazing painter who resides here in Asheville, and I have known you for quite a long time, man. And right when you came in here, we were talking about the first time that we had met, and it was at the lovely Suwannee Park, where I've met so many amazing creatives and painters, and it's really cool that you remember that too, because in my head I was like, was that the first time we met? And so that was over in probably what, 2012? Was it 12?
Yeah.
Was that really the year?
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it was like much further before that, but and so that was at the Purple Hatters Ball. Was that what it was? Okay.
Definitely.
And we were speaking specifically about what a amazing group of like creatives kind of amassed there. And it was kind of put together by Jared Trantham, who's quite the character, and
Mr. Smasher.
Yeah, Mr. Smasher. We love that dude so much, and it was just fun reminiscing on those days of Suwannee and how everybody's kind of evolved in their way. And I was also mentioning to you that that I think it was the same year, maybe I'm mistaken, but that was also the year I met Kevin Vigil, and you guys are good buddies as well, right? You guys went to school together, is that right?
Yeah, Kevin was a senior when I was a freshman, but he had brought me to Suwannee to Purple Hatters to paint. And that was just a awesome pivotal moment.
Yeah,
he was a big influence.
Tell us about your experience there. You said that was the first time like actually doing like a live painting.
Yeah, I guess that was like more of the first official time, but it was cool because in that time I was graduating art school, and I was really had a lot of information in my head, and I had just done a lot of studying, so all this stuff was so like constant, and I was just working through those things. But when I went to the festival, it was a cool moment where approaching it that way, interacting with people, letting go of my norms, it was a neat way to waken my creative spirit and enrich my imagination.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like, in a sense, like the school aspect gave you all the kind of elements that you needed in your arsenal, and then like as opposed to like the very methodical approach that a school structure might have, you had all that stuff, but you didn't necessarily maybe realize the potential of how you could use it, or the free flowing ways in which you can use it. Kind of, is that? Yeah.
It was funny. It was like I came back around to what made me want to be an artist in the first place, which is what I always had, was just my imagination and my heart. And it was, you know, you hear like, kill your masters, forget your rules. It was a neat way to actually experience that in real time.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I like those like kinds of thoughts. Those like, I'm not your guru. I'm not. That kind of stuff. It's so cool. That's cool that you. What was the moment when you realized like you were just like, oh, this is totally what I need to be doing, or kind of a bell that clicked? Because now you're off and running, man. You're just like you're just painting all the time, doing live paintings, and then now you guys got your art garden project. We'll definitely have to talk about it, but what was that pivotal moment where you're just like, I want to be doing this?
When I was graduating, I was going between editorial illustration or being a figure and landscape painter, and I think just being at that festival and being in that little moment of time with all those awesome artists who had just had their imagination with them the whole time. It was, I don't know if it was like a specific instance, but it was just being in that environment that really pushed me over the edge. I was just in heavily evolved process work and really into working out ideas, and this was a way of putting on a blindfold and seeing with other elements of myself. It was yeah, I don't know.
That's cool. How did you how early on did you know you wanted to pursue like the arts overall?
I guess like I don't know, like it just always drew. I would copy my older brother when I was a kid, but then it just stuck with me and became my own thing. And then when I was gonna graduate high school, I decided to take it more seriously and go after it.
And as far as when you were a kid, what were some of your like early creative inspirations, like things that made you want to think that you wanted to do art or doodle or scribble?
I remember there were some coffee table books that were kind of like my home.
Mm-hmm.
There's this Maxfield Parrish book, and he's an amazing, I don't know, some people call him a fine artist, some people call him an illustrator, but his palette is ingrained in my brain. And just as a kid, having access to that. And
what was his name again?
Maxfield Parrish.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, just these really rich, saturated scenes, these just magical moments. And Alphonse Mucha. So those were some just these coffee table books. And as a kid, it was like a cool place. I didn't know you could do that, or it's not a common thing that you're shown you can do. But being able to go in there and stimulate my imagination is pretty wild.
Yeah, that's cool. I was trying to think back of like some of my early influences, and it was just like the all the graffiti art that I saw growing up in Miami.
Yeah,
that was a big thing. Was like, I know I wanted to sit down. I remember I guess it was 5th grade, maybe started in 4th grade, but we would a couple of kids in the class knew how to do like bubble letters, and that was like,
or the
whoa,
S,
the little
the
dollar
S
sign
S,
S, those little things. And so I remember there's 2 kids in particular, both named Michael, actually. Shout out to those dudes. But yeah, they would always doodle, and they knew how to do bubble letters.
Yeah.
And I wanted to learn, so I would just practice the little bubble letters. And then next thing you know, I was like all into the graffiti, and I had my little sketchbook, and I would do my little stuff. And like as a little 5th grader, I would never go out and like spray paint on a building or whatever. But that was, for me, that was like the most prominent thing growing up, because I guess that was like the most art that I was exposed to, as a young child, driving around. And because my parents weren't necessarily artistically inclined or interested in the arts necessarily. So that's kind of a beautiful thing about graffiti art and street art, is like it's there, and like every little kid in person that drives by in the streets gets to see it and experience it. So it'd be interesting to see how those kind of influences play out in the next couple of decades, as these kids who are like growing up in an environment saturated with graffiti and street art are like as their primary like influence in art. It'll be so interesting to see where that goes in the next in the next little bit.
And it's so cool that they have access to that, that it's just sort of in their face and in the best of ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's probably going to be like a combination, like a hybrid maybe of like I would imagine, because the prominence of digital artwork too, and the accessibility to it. Like you rave about my iPad Procreate, and now like to think every kid could have it. My kid wants to play with it sometimes, so he's like learning layers, and he's learning brush settings and different things like that. So yeah, it's probably going to be like the kids in the future, like the future of art in the next couple of decades, going to be really interesting to see. I feel like it would be influenced primarily by like graffiti, street art, and then like the digital aspects.
And how much murals are flooding the streets. And,
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there's probably going to be a whole generation of kids who they probably never would even like think about doing art on like their own personal smaller scale, or like even the idea, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
just go find a wall or something.
Right. It's just like, no, you can just get a sketchbook and get a piece of paper or like a pencil.
Yeah.
And there you go. You're starting to do art. But and even now with artists who are interested in kind of exploring their own style that speak to me, and they want to talk about art or like asking about large scale mural work, and it's just like the interest in it is very interesting. And now I know you do a lot of large scale mural work when you can. How would you describe the difference between doing, you know, large scale versus you know, just normal paintings? Because I have some things to say about it.
Yeah. Well, one, and you touched upon it, but I just love, you know, and it was something I found in live painting, but I really love being able to, paint on a wall out in the streets where, all kinds of people that aren't going into a gallery per se or looking through your Instagram to find it, can be exposed to art, and you can have some really awesome conversations and interactions, and that's a huge reason behind doing it, and that's a gem. I really, I love painting murals. There's also just something so awesome about being able to work large scale, being able to share. As an artist, I'm a huge sharer, and just being able to be given the opportunity to go put something up on a wall.
Yeah, it's always received, in my experience, it's always received for the most part very, very, very well. You know what I mean? Like people stop by to say hi and you know, give gratitude and appreciation. And
yeah, you make people think, or like, you know, some folks are like, oh, I didn't know you could do that, or like, it's a cool way to share life.
Yeah. So now I know a lot of your mural work, at least that I've seen in person, has a lot to do, or is projects mostly with medicine heart, which is your kind of like art. I don't know if I want to call it a side project, but it's just like another art project that you have going on with a couple artists here in town. Let's talk about medicine heart.
Yeah, definitely. That's a triad of myself, Annie, Kyle Bennett, and Jack Henry, and we just share a lot of reasons in being an artist. We share a lot of the same direction as on our artist journey, and we really resonate and connect when we make art. So making it together was just only seemed natural. And
yeah, so was your first like collaboration, did that come about kind of naturally? You guys just noticed similarities in their style, or how did it kind of coalesce into what it is now? Because now you guys are known as this like power force, muralists.
Let's do it.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think because I ended up moving in with Jack and Annie, I believe, in 2016, and we didn't waste much time, and we became partners right off the bat. Annie, yeah.
You just said partners. That's awesome.
Yeah. Annie took me into the Hive, and she was running a clothing company at the time, and I'm trying not to do the scenic route on this, but
that's how I met Annie, actually doing her clothing.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, Spectrum Geometry. Yeah.
Awesome.
And that was wild, and just growing as people and spending time together, we just realized we had a lot in common, and we painted this picture out in California together, and then next thing I know, we were out at Electric Forest, and I think that was our first like more of a major collaboration.
Yeah, so you guys got asked to go out and paint at Electric Forest.
Annie did, and she wrangled the fortunate Jack and I.
Nice. Nice. So that's kind of how it just kind of coalesced into something just naturally like that. Because so for those who haven't heard of or been or seen the amazingness that is Electric Forest, it's like a giant, you know, obviously a music festival first, camp out and all that, but then there's just like acres and acres of immersive, interactive, you know, art experiences, you know, everything from, you know, fire-breathing sculptures to the crazy LED, you know, light shows and things like that. Then, of course, scattered about, they have a bunch of muralists working on really cool paintings. So that's really cool that you guys got to do that. That was kind of your first, like, main event, if you will.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, from there we developed a really strong process and a really neat way of picture making and communicating ideas.
Yeah.
And,
go ahead.
Oh yeah. Yeah, just it was a really cool process of understanding why we live paint and sharing art.
Now, there's this undeniable influence in the three of y'all's work, but I also see it, obviously, individually with each of your own work. But like, I don't know how to describe Medicine Heart Murals. So obviously, guys, go check them out. It's at Medicine Heart Murals on Instagram, right? Simple as that. And at Dillon Endico, the man we're talking to. But so the influence for Medicine Heart in particular has these really strong indigenous connection to the land type of feel to it. Would you kind of agree that, like, with that kind of feeling, like, where do you guys draw inspiration for the compositions that you guys come together? Because they are so intriguing and they're, I don't know how, you guys definitely have to go check it out, but it really nicely and softly weaves like kind of indigenous feel with nature, I guess is the best way I could describe it.
Yeah, we're definitely inspired by corporations and the 1%. No, we really, yeah, we're like super deeply rooted in, I guess, like concept development. Nature is obviously as broad as and expansive of a word as that is nature is a huge element of what influences us. We like to be aware of the places we're going to. It's kind of our way of just sort of keeping a pulse on our surroundings, small and wide, and trying to bring little nuggets of thoughts and concepts forward. And yeah, I mean, we love to know the native plants of an area we're going into. I think so. As all this can of worms kind of comes out, I think what a way to like put it together is, in having a strong concept or idea to communicate, we look for bodies of like different subject matter to communicate that. And oftentimes, the subject matter we go towards, which is different types of medicinal plants or animals or teachings of the indigenous people that once called that place or still call that place home. And it was a neat way to tie in a connection to where we were and to share that with people who were coming in. And
oh, that's so cool. So that's kind of the onset when you guys approach what the composition is going to be. You consider, especially if you guys are going to do a traveling mural, the local indigenous. That's so cool. That's awesome. That's a great way to pay homage to it, And you guys really weave that feeling so well, man. It's so cool.
Thanks.
So we kind of glazed over it earlier, but I told you I had grown up in Miami, and you mentioned earlier before we started recording that you grew up in the Keys. Whereabouts in the Keys?
I was born down in Key West, and then I grew up in Key Largo.
You were born in Key West?
Yeah.
Wow. I wonder how many people are born there a year. Not many. I mean, I know they got a hospital there, but
it's a small town.
And then Key Largo is way north in the Keys,
it's
right?
the first.
It is the
first island, yeah.
The first big main island. Okay, that's so crazy. What was growing up there like, man? Because I've fantasized about living there. Even growing up in Miami, for those who aren't familiar with the area, it's, even though it's only 4 hours from Key West, it's such a diverse kind of, like, yeah, you might as well be in another place. You know what I mean? It's just so different, the pace and the feel. How was that like?
It was awesome.
I love grouper. Is that what you're gonna say?
I love Jimmy
delicious.
Buffett.
Yeah, right.
No, I do love grouper.
Sure.
And mahi, but
yeah.
No, it was wild. There's that man. You get that ocean breeze all the time. It was a really cool place to grow up as a kid. I spent more time probably in the mangroves and the water than I did on land. I feel like the color schemes of that environment have permeated my being. It's hard to get away from them sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was super rad. It was cool. It's not a huge place, so it's a small town, but you're also on the edge of the country, and
it's a really, really amazing, beautiful place. And like you're saying, with the natural colors there, like. I try to
get out of my head.
Yeah, I can't, like, whenever you say it, I see it instantly, just those crystal clear waters. And like, I think a lot of times people look at the Keys and it's just like, Key West, cool, it's an island, it's part of America. Yes, but it literally is the Caribbean as well, and it's like
the gate. It's the gateway. It's the beginning.
Yeah, it's not like, but yeah, and it's not even like it dips its toes in the Caribbean. No, that is totally the Caribbean. You go to the Bahamas and Bimini, and you're gonna see the same exact, like terrain and kind of features, which is so crazy. So, when did you? So from growing up in Key West, how did you make your way up here to Asheville?
Oh,
I'm sure it was a long road. There's a couple things I'm hoping that you mention as far as I want to talk about that your Taos adventures in particular. Yeah, how did you end up there?
I had fallen in love with Colorado and had visited Taos on a road trip out there. But I went out to Taos because in the middle of art school, I thought I just wanted to be a farmer.
Yeah. Okay.
So I went and I lived on this awesome farm with this guy who was ironically an artist, Jeff Cochran. He's an amazing artist.
Okay.
But so I lived there for a little bit, and then I ended up finding this community called Earthships, the Earthship community, which is these awesome, sustainable Dr. Seuss looking houses.
Sure.
Their aim is to have closed cycle systems and to leave no or little of a footprint as they can.
Sure. But before we get into the Earthships, let me ask: like, you went out there to go farm?
Yeah.
I mean, I might be just naive here, but like, what, like New Mexico, like the desert and stuff. But I mean, I know we're at the Taos is like the foothills of the Rockies, so
yeah,
I'm just naive here.
No, it is still desert.
Okay.
It is. Yeah, I mean, it's just on the cusp there, but I was inspired. Well, I used that woofing program, Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms, and I had a partner at the time who was an environmental science major, and I was just really concerned and consumed in facts and just the trajectory of our planet, and I just wanted to feel like more of a connection. And I also was inspired by this guy that went out to, like you said, this desert-like climate and had this lush, small-scale farm.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to be able to produce for myself. I didn't want to be like this farmer and have this business. I just wanted to be able to get my hands in the earth and be able to work with tough terrain and know what that took. And
okay, so it sounds like it's kind of like it's kind of integrated with like the whole kind of permaculture irrigation that you would be using with an Earthship type scenario. Essentially, it's kind of a branching off of that.
Yeah, it was a little more of a PG version of permaculture.
Oh, okay, cool. So how so tell me more about that. The Earthship. So you lived there for like what you said, a year?
Yeah. I lived in Taos for about a year. The Earthships were really wild, and as often as it is with really, lofty goals and really imaginative, far-reaching goals, there's also the duality of it, the pendulum swing. Mm-hmm. It was a really neat place to work and live and learn and be a part of, and it was also turned a little Mad Max-like out there, I think.
Yeah.
So the Earthships, they developed a community out on the mesa, which was deemed an unlivable place.
Right.
Which was just an awesome, signal of defiance, and it was really cool and inspiring, especially if some areas of our land might be inhabitable or faced with similar challenges.
Right.
So there's a lot of inspiration and lessons to be had there.
So there's like a main allotted like compound, and then there's people who just kind of expanded and are doing their own thing.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're like a little bit farther away from that like permitted compound. Is that what you're saying?
It was just deemed unlivable. It's not like they weren't allowed to go out there.
Now, isn't that one of the few counties in the country that don't require any kind of building permit or anything like that?
I think that was a big element of why it started there. I'm not certain though.
Oh, okay.
There's a really cool documentary about it called Garbage Warriors that I'd watched when I went out there. That was in 2010 or something.
Oh, okay.
And I was on and off, and then I lived out there in 2012.
Did you see any kind of craziness you're talking about with them, or interesting stories as far as like the Mad Max aspects to it, like just craziness or?
Yeah, there
crazy house parties.
Oh man, yeah, it was.
I heard about. So I visited Taos one time, and I spent a couple of days there, and it took me not even one day before I heard about this compound and how it's just lawless and crazy out there. So it's kind of funny how you.
I
you
felt
had
like it
experience.
was the modern day Wild West.
Okay.
You know, where you're the, crazy from anything from, people living their life on crazy conspiracy theories or just, riding dirt bikes like 15 miles out to some hot spring that no one knows about, or learning how to skin a coyote and then also going to wild party at an earthship too, all in the same day.
That's
or
crazy.
Just, like, I don't know.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Because I think at least for me, there's a sense of like I don't know, like an allure, a fantasy about living that kind of a lifestyle, and like, how if you are living truly free, like how free would you like take it? You know what I mean? Like, and it's good to hear that people are just like, yeah, I'll do whatever the fuck I want. You know what I mean? That's awesome.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of so from the hypothetical place of what one would imagine that to be like to the actuality it was pretty wild to see it unfold. It takes a lot of communication and a lot of willingness to pivot and shape shift as things unfold, and yeah, definitely felt a little Mad Max like.
Yeah,
sure.
that's crazy. Have you heard about Madison County here? Apparently which is just north of us.
There?
Well, is there? I haven't heard that in particular, but I just have heard that it's actually another one of these counties where the building permits are so laxed, or if not at all existent, and so people can build stuff. So you're saying of an airship that's out there?
Yeah, I've heard about that. I've heard about the building regulations out there. I have a friend out there who's he doesn't have to get a permit or anything for any of the structures he wants to build on the property he owns. I don't know a lot about the earthship that's out there. I just have heard that there was one and they were having some issues with it, and it might not
Okay.
fully make it or go through.
Okay, because I've heard stories of like hippie communes out there, just a bunch of school buses parked in a circle or whatever. That's cool too.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you still have an interest in pursuing anything like that?
Yeah, I think it's somewhat mandatory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If we're trying to make a sustainable and safe future for ourselves and the next generations, and I think it should almost just be a part of the curriculum.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like there's an air of comfort that would come with being able to like kind of sustain yourself. And for me, myself, that's kind of like the long-term goal, is to kind of have a space set aside for me and whoever wants to live in a similar way and kind of create, grow food and do whatever. I mean, so many of us talk about it, it's really cool. It's such a cool like thing to think about, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, that would actually be really cool. That would be the way to live. You know what I mean? Less stress and whatnot. So let's switch gears a little bit, man. Let's talk about your art in particular. So, like I was saying earlier, you definitely have a lot of these like really awesome indigenous influences. And more recently, I've noticed in the last couple of paintings you've done, you had this really cool like dark like twist, man. What's up with that? That little change in your in the feel, the style. You just kind of it almost looks to me like you just like have things that you feel and you're expressing them through there. And
whether I like it or not, I have a bleeding heart. But I think so. It feels like I had really found a lot of identity and style and inspiration as I traveled and did festivals, and was inspired by the quote unquote visionary art, seeing that micro culture. But I felt like for the last year or two I've been struggling. I'm always going to create and just have to keep creating, but I felt for like the last year or two I've been curious and trying to push and find a place that I could create from and felt was authentic. And I still strive to inspire and I still strive to bring light, but I'm also a big fan of balance and a big fan of the duality that we live in. And there's definitely darkness within the work, but that's the stuff that molds you and shapes you, and I want to speak to that, and I want to help. Like I want people to use that as an opportunity for growth or something, and it's been a big, and I've just been feeling crazy too. I mean, I guess like a big part of being an artist. I'm always kind of wanting to keep a pulse on things, and I want to speak out to that, and not only just speak to current affairs and feelings and things I observe, but also try to branch off from that and bring something in.
I like that a lot because oftentimes as an artist you're looked to for commentary on this or that, and oftentimes I don't think your work necessarily has to directly address it, but for somebody who's in a position where people are looking at you or looking up to you in some regard, for you to be like, look, I have these things that I need to work out in my own head, and like you said, your bleeding heart, and so to be able to make these kind of like I don't know, just like I don't want to say demonic, but they're just like dark. They're kind of like dark in a way, compared to, but what you're doing
I'll
is
tell you the name of this series.
Yeah, what is it?
Casual Demons.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so I wasn't too far off.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is like it's a beautiful thing, is you're acknowledging that exists, and you have those thoughts and you have those feelings, and you don't even need to have to say anything about them. You're expressing all that through your art, but at the same time you're acknowledging that it exists. So it kind of embraces this, like, if you will, this dark night of the soul kind of light version, if you will, because you can't have one without the other, because your work, on the contrary, is extremely bright and just like soft and kind of motherly and nurturing kind of work, and very impressionistic in a kind of weird way. Would you have influence from some of the impressionistic work?
Oh man,
because you have a really cool spin on it, man. But I'm not one to have like this kind of like painterly like approach, if you will, or I acknowledge certain styles or influences. But yeah, there's like, it has impressionistic tendencies. Would you say?
Oh yeah, yeah. So I like one of the first times, like, I think my friends have always been my biggest influence as far as painters go, but when I went to New York one time, and I had seen this Monet exhibit and some other impressionists, and I dedicated a whole semester and a half to just painting like that.
Oh, okay.
I was so blown away, and it also it had done a lot for my spirit, and it also did a lot for my understanding of color. Like those dudes could make like alizarin crimson out of iron oxide, not by mixing it, but just like by surrounding it with other colors and stuff. And then, so yeah, that's through and through. And I hadn't cried in front. I hadn't like seen work that actually made me cry. And not just because like the subject, it was like, that was like, when I think of a time when I was really blown away by art, it was just seeing some of those pieces. But also too, to backtrack a minute too,
yeah,
it's like,
definitely.
Something that had come up in thinking about things was, I feel like maybe my work was somewhat preaching to the choir, or, I always love to make people think, and I always love to have a platform to have some neat conversations and connections with people. But yeah, I'm over trying to sugarcoat things. I've
that.
for forever, but now in a different way, I've always wanted to paint the harder paintings, and that was just something that I felt like I've been trying to move into and to speak from. But,
yeah. So regarding the approach and the style, I would have to say that it's funny. I don't think I've felt the urge to like having like tearing up a couple times for sure at art, but the ones that do always speak out to me, aside from like the Dalis and such, but are the impressionistic painters, like
awesome. Cool.
Yeah, Monet and Van Goghs and things like that. Like, very generic run of the mill. But I've gotten to see a lot of those in person at the MoMA, and I remember standing in front of Starry Night, and and 100 people around that painting
Right,
at the moment, on a Wednesday afternoon or whatever, and I'm just sitting there, and I don't know what it was that felt in me. I just it's like, man, that's the painting. But I think what happens, at least to me, and I'm sure it happens to you and a lot of other artists who are in it, the first thing you do when you look at a painting like that is you just try to decompose it.
Sure.
Or what's the word I'm looking for? Deconstruct it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I know what you're saying.
You just what's the method and the application, and then I think that's the first thing that you do when you see it, and then after that, you kind of are struck with the brevity of the kind of residual energy of the strokes themselves. And that's the point in which I'm moved at a painting, where I just you can almost sense and perceive the feeling and the emotion in the way that a stroke was created, Mm-hmm. And I'm the kind of person who's always, and even with all kinds of painters, but nose right up to it and just trying to see where one color blends into the other and what kind of brush was used or the application. But for whatever reason, those artists have always struck me that just as being profound artists. And I think it's interesting because if we take it to today, I would have to say, and I know we talked about him earlier, but Kevin's work is the epitome of contemporary impression.
He's locked in. He's dialed in.
So for you guys who don't know, Kevin Vigil is his name. He goes by Mr. Melty, but it's really cool because, and I think that's obviously one of the reasons why I love his work so much, because I've always been struck by that the method of painting impressionistic like that, and he's like you said, he's got it locked in. That's so cool. So crazy. So man, I want to ask you about some of your current influences, as far as, we can talk about art if you want, but artists and whatnot, but maybe musical influences or people that are on your radar for doing cool stuff that you're inspired by.
My friends.
I
think I'll definitely run on that one. I could talk at length about that one, but first off and foremost, I think it's something I realized in art school was, you're reading about all these people and they're so far away from you, or maybe you do get to meet a master or something, but it's so wild to be able to share an experience or watch someone grow and change and see that firsthand. And that's the stuff that lights me up. That's awesome. And I love, and then real quick, I love Andrew Hem. He's a painter currently out there. That guy is on a whole other level.
I'm pretty sure I know his work. He does a lot of faces, but in three, they look almost blurred, optical illusion type.
Yeah, and his palettes are so on point, and they're otherworldly. Just everything about him, full spectrum. Andrew Hem, hands down. But I love Anis Mujgani. He's a spoken word poet, or he's a poet.
Interesting.
Yeah, I try to have a little arsenal of things that keep me inspired. He's in there.
Is that something you just throw on while you're painting? Just listen to some spoken word?
Yeah, if I'm having a hard time to get into it, I'll chill out, close my eyes, and put something on to dial in with like that. Climbing poetry. There's two badass ladies.
You do any writing yourself?
Yeah, but I keep that to myself.
Oh, cool. No, that's good. I'm sure it's a great practice. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be great for the brain.
Before I used to do so much writing before I even got to a picture making. In the process of picture making, I would do a lot of writing and exploring because I just wanted to be clear about what I was. I always had a hard time, maybe because my mind is I'm an overthinker. My imagination's just constantly going. So I liked having that as direction and being clear about what I was creating, because if I sit down and get on an easel, then that could go for who knows how long if I'm not. I need to
So
harness
you do that most of the time before you set out to do a new painting. You write a little blurb about it. This is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, some. It's a mixture of spirit, bullshit, facts and information, and intention.
That's so interesting.
but yeah, I think a lot of that came from kind of being grounded as an illustrator, because illustrators are most often in storytelling.
Right, you need to have your story.
Yeah, and I'm just really big on story or an idea, or at least a starting place of one.
That's so cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, the new work I'm doing is it's a little I'm not doing as much process around it, which is good because I just like mixing it up. I'm a creature of habit, and then at some point I'll just need to switch gears and just
Abolish it all.
completely drop it.
Yeah, I find the same. I find the same for myself. But that's so interesting that that you have like I don't know, people have dream journals. You have like, I guess it's kind of like your own little art journal. That's so interesting. You know, you can kind of write about it and think about it beforehand.
Definitely.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also kind of helps me stay focused too, or like I can just go completely right brain, you know, if I want. So I have my guidelines or something. You know, I can break them if I need to or whatever, but you know, as long as I have an intent to work with.
That's so cool. Can I ask like a little bit of like what might you blurt down? Like, are they like just words or sayings or kind of like channelings or?
Yeah, it's a mixture of different sentences and trying to think about. So a lot of this process kind of came out of doing live painting because, you know, you talk to people basically like half the time you're painting. And so I really love interaction, and I almost, at one point, I like interaction and connection more than the painting itself. Just having that platform to engage people was
it's actually really cool to be able to
it's super stimulating, super neat, and understanding why we even make art or celebrate the imagination.
And it's like feedback, instant feedback. It's feedback loop. It's crazy.
It can also be silly too. It could just be
oh, I love it. Yeah.
Did you paint all these? But yeah, it's a mixture of like writing down thoughts, inspiring lyrics or ideas, and also trying to break apart concepts and just write out different subject matter that would be really neat to express these ideas. And, you know, like, so you'll eventually get to a place of like, what happens if a bicycle and a giraffe meet in the middle of New York City? You know, like, just like it's a cool way to find places that didn't exist or not be too literal about something.
That's so cool. So did you know anybody that had practiced this prior, or like you kind of took little bits from, or you just like found that this was just so helpful naturally?
I think a lot of this came from I read this really cool book called The Art Spirit. There's also this amazing illustrator called Sterling Hundley, amazing artist, who talks a lot about ideation. And I think a lot of it kind of came from traditional training. So now it's just this hodgepodge of what worked for me. And
that's so cool.
How it made sense.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's. I used to do a lot of writing myself, but it was. I like very basic rhyme schemes and a lot of like just kind of cheap, kind of gag, funny jokes. You know what I mean? I don't know, but I do have tons of books of just random thoughts, and I haven't done it in such a long time. But to hear you say that it's a way to kind of like prepare yourself mentally to go into a painting, that's such an interesting concept to me. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think what inspired a strong process was like hearing different TED Talks and articles and different talks and stuff about how our creative brain works and how our, you know, left brain works and how we move between the two. And I remember feeling creative block, and I found this article, and I don't know who it was, but they had talked about having guidelines in your creative practice so you could stop thinking. You know, which is kind of funny too, because I think that was something I found in the festival was like so much of how I found art and how I expressed my artistic spirit was stuff I just had my whole life. And it was just more so how to dial in with that and do it on purpose. or learn everything to forget it. And that was a cool way of doing that. But, yeah.
That's interesting. I never even thought about it in that regard, where it's like you can have guidelines so you don't have to think, because we all suffer from creative block from time to time, but there's probably like objective ways to mitigate that,
Yeah.
I mean, we have certain things that we do that.
Yeah, boundaries and limitations are super. It's like, like there's like this creative myth that like we're these like, or I just hear it a lot, but like, oh, an artist's like this free thinker, just wild. They just sit down and like make art, and it's like, sometimes you sit down and just beat your head against the wall, and sometimes this and that, and so like, having that, like, like you can. There's so much to learn within boundaries, and like, if you want to be a badass and break rules and stuff, you gotta learn them and experience them.
Yeah, and then I think you gotta like bring it back home and like figure out how you're going to refine that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In a weird way. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. It's like the creative process has, in my opinion, two aspects. And one is that I think it's usually the primary part, the first part of the process is the creative part, right? Where you can just kind of tap into that. Oh yeah, artists just do whatever they feel, and they feel this, yeah, that is one aspect of it, but then you got to go back in and then like chisel it out and figure it out, and that's really where that left brain, analytical, like, part comes in, and it's really, like, I found that having a balance of the two is really the best. And for years I had just gone with the right brain part, and that's why I was talking about earlier, I have so much unfinished painting that it's just like, this was just a thought of feeling. That was just how I felt today.
That's my kryptonite.
Yeah. But there's
also like my gold too.
Exactly. When you pull that one out, you're like, oh man, look at this thing. I haven't seen this in a year or two. It's really exciting stuff, man. So let's talk a little bit more about Medicine Heart. And the reason why I want to do so is because I want to just transition and give you guys an opportunity, or give you an opportunity to talk about the art garden project that you guys are doing here in the River Arts District, which is basically a brand new project that you guys just started. It's a gallery space. You're building an outdoor mural space. Tell us about it, man.
Yeah. So Art Garden opened up in November. And it's this long time coming culmination of, like we had said earlier, Annie had started Spectrum Geometry when we had become art nerds and really clicked. Medicine Heart Murals blossomed from that. And we were road dogs for a while, and we had all wanted to not be on the road as much. And we wanted to shift gears and sing.
I just gotta say the irony with the current state of affairs. How you just started and you're saying we got to pull back on the festival season. It's like there you go. There is no festival season.
No, there's been some great moments of magic and realization. I remember being on the road and Jack talking passionately about finding a space to make our own and what we could do with that and what could come of that. And I would hear that while we were building out the gallery. But it's a gallery maker space. And it's in the River Arts District here in Asheville. And it's a culmination of a lot of the things that drove Medicine Heart. This desire to bring out authentic spirit in people and to create a space where culture and ideas can be experienced, and where there's just so much stuff. I think it's so constant right now in my life, and it's bubbling over.
It's like, but it's kind of like an open-ended project. You guys now have the space to explore the things that you want to do. And you were talking about prior to shutdowns and stuff that you were doing classes over there. You're hosting classes and things like that. And
and now and there's about this 40 by 40 foot section outside that we are transforming into a garden and an area for events and classes to be had. There'll be a big mural wall there and some other small mural spots for other artists. And
Yeah, the listeners definitely got to check it out because the it's got like this courtyard area outside that I can tell once it's all complete. And you've been putting a lot of hard work out there. I've driven by a few times and see you guys just out there sweating.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and it's looking really good. So yeah, it has like this awesome courtyard space. You guys gonna have like beverages and stuff ultimately? Is that the goal? Maybe.
We'll have all sorts of magical things.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
It's everything. Everything's so expansive as far as our desire and drive and ideas go. So we're trying to get this up and running because the vision just doesn't stop.
Yeah, and you guys currently have a quarantine show running right now, right?
Yeah.
How many artists are a part of that?
Oh goodness, I honestly.
It's probably like 30, right, or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot, and they're all local.
Yeah, all local. Yeah, all local. Go check it out. It's pretty cool. And to think the idea of I like the idea of a quarantine show too. It's like what have you been up to or creating?
Right.
You know, in this time frame
because what's brought up.
Yeah, because I know a lot of us have had like a lot more time to do it, and that's ideal for an artist to just have that free time to be able to create and explore. Sometimes a little bit daunting, honestly, all the free time. I'm still on unemployment.
That's why
y'all.
boundaries are good. Like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
When you look at the unfolding of everything, and you can see the infinite possibilities, you can do one thing at a time.
Yeah,
when you dial it in. Like.
Totally. And there's some most days I'm really good at it where I'm like, all right, I got. I put 7-8 hours in. And
you crank it, man.
You just got to do the work. But then sometimes it's just like, oh man, I got more free time. I guess I'm gonna sit on my chair again all day and look at that mushroom growing outside.
I keep looking at
that mushroom out there. Yeah. It's like I get to see that thing grow. There's this giant. I don't even know. Do you know what kind of mushroom that is? It's growing out this like oak tree right next to my studio space. But that thing just appeared in like the last day or two. So yeah, just like sitting in my chair, then peeking outside and like, oh
yeah. Well, I've been talking. That's where my eyes.
That thing's epic, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Oh man. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate you sitting and having a chat. I think we did a good job. We definitely had a good podcast. Anything else you want to leave the people with? Tell them where they can get in contact with you and all that stuff.
Right. You can find me on Instagram at
Dillon Endico.
Yep, that's Endico. And you can check out Art Garden AVL on Instagram and artgardenavl.com. And check out Jack Henry Art and Annie Kyla Bennett Art and stay
Medicine
true.
Heart murals.
Yeah.
Stay true. Much love, dude. Thank you so much for coming and chat with
Thanks
me,
so
brother.
much,
Yeah, definitely, brother. Look forward to seeing you soon, man. You guys have a great one, and we'll chat for the next one. Peace.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it if you've gotten this far. It's been such a fun project for me to try to put this together, and I am very excited that I have something to show for it at this point in time. Please keep in mind that I am definitely open to any and all kinds of feedback. I want to hear from you. What did you think of our conversations? Who would you like to hear more from? What would you like us to talk about? All that kind of stuff. And please know that everything that we spoke about should be linked in our description. And if it's not for whatever reason, or we talked about something that you would be more interested to, explore yourself, please message me and I'd be happy to get that information for you as well. Anyways, that's all I got to say, guys. Thank you so much. And I really, really appreciate it. I'll see y'all for the next one.